Okay, friends, Kyle here, and today we're going to be talking about the P100. Now, this is take 2 because the last stream didn't work. Sorry about that. Changed some settings. Hopefully this one looks a little better. Let me know if you can hear and see me okay in the chat. Hopefully this works okay. Getting used to this whole YouTube live thing. I want to do more of these, but there's a lot of tech that goes on behind the scenes, so let me know. Hope you guys are doing well today. So today we're going to be talking about the Optional P100. This is Optional's top tier, quote unquote, endgame grinder. And so today I want to talk about it. I want to talk about why would somebody consider this, why I bought it. You know, I waited months for this grinder to show up. I have the P64, I have the Lego Mini, you know, all of them purchased, and you could kind of say I'm a Optional fanboy in many ways, but that's because they make really good gear. So today we're going to talk about the P100, who would buy something like this, what my first impressions are of this grinder. We're going to brew some espresso, we're going to brew some filter coffee, all on a live stream, which can be a little dangerous. So we're going to try that. And then at the end of this stream, I'm going to open it up to you guys to see if you have any questions about the P100, any questions about coffee, any questions about anything content on this channel. I want to just be able to chat with you guys. So if you have any questions, let me know in the chat as we go. Do me a huge favor before we dive into this, before we dive into the P100, smash that like button down below. I hate asking, I really do, guys, but it tells YouTube that specialty coffee is important. And it tells YouTube that this is a conversation that people are interested in. So do me a favor, we have currently about 40 people watching. We can get 40 likes real quick. So let's do that real sweet, and then we'll keep on going. If you were in the last stream and you're catching up on this later, I do apologize that we had to end that one, but let's dive into this. So this is the P100. This is the P100, and this is a grinder I'm really excited about because this has 98 millimeter flat burrs. So today we're going to talk about why would you consider this over the P64. So I want to brew some coffee with this in a second and show you how it works, but I want to take this apart. So I'm going to top down camera angle here. And we're going to move this P64 just in the center here because I want you to see what is going on with this grinder. Now, like the P64, it comes with this little dosing cup here. Very similar, exact same, in fact, nothing different there. Where this grinder is really going to differ is obviously the brew chamber, the grind chamber here. Now, this is stepless, just like the P64. It uses the massive 98 millimeter burrs, but let's dive into this to see what it looks like. Okay, so if we open this up here, you can actually see the ring here. Hopefully you can see that okay. And this here actually moves. All right, this actually moves. So what that means is you can actually change where the 0 point is, right? So my 0 point actually, if I turn this on here, hopefully this isn't too loud. We're gonna keep on going. See those burrs chirping, you can hear that, that's the 0 point. So I can actually adjust this to here, but let's say I wanted my 0 point to actually be over here. I could actually change where the sticker is, the line on this 0 point, move it over here, and move 0 over here, if that makes sense. Okay, let's open up this chamber here because you're excited to see what this grinder is all about. Welcome to those who are watching. Let me know if you're here in the chat. Smash that like button if you're into coffee grinders, coffee content, and that would be awesome. All right. All right. Here we go. So the chamber here is absolutely massive, and I've been grinding a lot of coffee, so there's a little bit of coffee dust here. I wouldn't really consider that retention by any means, but just like the Lego Mini, the Lego P64, this top just pops right out, okay? No tools needed. So I can slide this right out, and inside is its burrs. Now, like I mentioned, these are 98 millimeter burrs, and these ones particularly are the 98 millimeter high uniformity SSP burrs, which are just so interesting, right? 98 millimeter burrs are just massive, just almost excessive in many ways. This is the same kind of burr that you would see in like an EK43. In fact, this is the exact same burr that you can place inside the EK43. And so what Optional has done is taken those massive burrs you see in a more commercial setting and place them inside of a home prosumer style machine, which is absolutely insane. Now, why you would want a bigger burr? Well, that's a whole conversation for a whole nother video, but in short, really there are so many different advantages to larger burrs, right? One obviously would be grind uniformity. Another would be heat dispersion, right? Because of the larger burr size, when you're grinding more coffee, it'll take a longer time for those burrs to heat up, which will impact the flavor on your coffee. But one of the greatest features I find with this grinder specifically is the speed in which it grinds coffee. It's fantastic. In fact, I gotta show you guys because it blows my mind. So this grinds about 18 grams in less than 2 seconds. 2 seconds. So I'm really excited about that. That's something that I find just really nice to use in the day-to-day. It makes dialing in coffees less of a hassle because grinding coffee, it's not time consuming, right? And most grinders aren't, but when you have a luxury item like this, it's just one of those little things that make it worth the money if you're into the market of something like this. All right. Well, I think what we should do now is grind some coffee. Let's do that. Okay, now what's really interesting about the P100 is you're gonna hear this in a second. The burrs are incredibly fast, and there's an RPM adjustment here. I've got it on 5 out of the 9 that it's at. Now the range is 200 RPMs up to about 1500 RPMs. The advertised 1700 RPMs, but I tested with my tachometer and it was maxing out at like 1498. So I'd call that 1500 RPMs. Now why that's interesting is because obviously this is an incredibly fast grinder, but it can grind fairly slow too if you want to, which is a video topic that I'm working on right now, but that's the RPM effects on flavor profiles. Now, the consensus right now is that the slower you grind, the higher clarity you can get in your coffee profiles. And so that's not something really proven. That's kind of mostly just people's experimentation and what we assume based on some articles from Barista Hustle and some others. Now, let's dive into this. I'm gonna grind this, but what I wanted to say was after it's ground all the coffee out, there's no bellows on this. So what it does is it actually speeds up the RPM once it realizes there's no tension on the motor, and it will basically push any retention out. Then there's a little knocker on the front here, okay, and that kind of knocks any grounds out in the grind chute. Let me show you how this works. It's pretty interesting. Now, this isn't something I've seen on many grinders, but as you could hear there, what was happening was as soon as it released the tension from grinding coffee, it sped up those burrs. It might have been a little loud. My microphone is literally right on top of the P100, but I assure you it's a very quiet grinder. That being said, it is a little bit louder than the P64. I've really come accustomed to the P64 being near silent. This is a little bit louder. So there's kind of a trade-off here, right? You have a bigger motor, obviously a lot more torque here. You can grind a ton of coffee. The hopper is 100 grams. You can do batch brews on this, right? And in a commercial setting. And so it does have that ability, though it is obviously meant for the home barista. It has a little bit more flexibility in how you can use it. But the trade-off is obviously quiet sound for like a longer period of time, or just a little bit louder for a couple seconds, right? It's just so fast. And the grind quality is just mind-blowing. Some of the best coffee profiles, honestly, that I've had to date. Now, I have only had it for a week, and so I could be just in this honeymoon phase. So please stick around for the full review on my full thoughts after I've used this. But I want to give you my first impressions today. So I think now what we should do is we should brew a coffee. All right, let's do that. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna dial this in. I'm gonna grind this at around a 5.1. And today what we're brewing is this coffee right here. This is Lulo. It's a roaster in my hometown, Ottawa. And a man named Kevin roasts this on an Alio bullet. It's just absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend. And this is a Washkatura. And it's giving me a lot of flavor notes, a lot of profiles of like sparkling acidity, citric acidity rather, with like just orange and mandarin. Let's brew this. If you guys are just joining, welcome. We're talking about the P100 today, just giving some first impressions on a live stream. Hope you guys are all doing well. At the end of this video, we're gonna talk about some questions that you guys have. I'm gonna address those, and then I'm gonna give you my overall first thoughts. All right, let's dive into this. Okay, so we're grinding at 5.1. My camera's turned off here. So I can see in the chat now, people are asking the price of this grinder. This grinder is around $2,500, which is a lot of money. It's an absurd amount of money for a coffee grinder. And realistically, most people don't need a grinder like this. This grinder, as I said earlier, is a grinder that somebody would consider like an end game grinder. Somebody who would want to spend that, who can budget a grinder like this. It's a grinder that you'd really pair with something. I mean, I've got the Slayer single group, right? You'd want to pair this with a machine that, like, espresso is not just a passion, although it may be, but for some people, a grinder like this might be more than that. This might be a way they make money. It might be their living, right? But it might not be. A lot of people do like the style of a P100, EG1, those endgame grinders for the home too. But this really is an expensive grinder, and I cannot emphasize enough, you don't need to spend this much money to get fantastic coffee at home. But today, I do have this grinder. It is mine, and I want to share what makes a grinder like this just so great. All right, while I'm brewing this, I want to give a huge shout outs to the Home Barista Discord that we started this past little bit. I would encourage everybody watching right now, if you haven't yet, join the Discord. I'm going to pull it up right here. Now, this is a Discord available to everybody. This is a Discord that is public, and there are certain areas that are private, but it's public to everybody. You can find a link for this down below, and this is a great spot where people are sharing recipes. They're sharing what they're brewing, sharing issues that they're facing within brewing coffee, troubleshooting espresso, troubleshooting filter coffee, and I would highly recommend checking this out. Right now, this is open on the Today I'm Brewing, and you can see here people are posting photos of what coffee they're brewing every day, and it's an incredible place. It's a place where you can find me, and if you want to chat outside of just like Instagram DMs, which I hardly ever check, this is the place that you'll find me. There's a link for this down in the description below. There's no strings attached. Just show up and brew some coffee and share it with friends. It's just an amazing, incredible community. Straight up, it's linked down below. Check it out. I'll remind you before we end this stream, but the Home Barista Discord, absolutely incredible. Okay. Gonna rinse this filter real quick. Oh, dang it! We just spilled all of our coffee everywhere. This is live streams. Okay, so we're gonna try this again. We're gonna grind up some more coffee. That's just heartbreaking. Man, oh man. All right, we're gonna try this one more time. I'm devastated. Doing live streams, how can I explain this? Doing live streams is like you're presenting, for a class, or you're presenting for a work moment, and you can't mess up, right? Everything you do, it's just broadcasted. So there you guys go. That would normally be edited out of a YouTube video, but I don't know, maybe you like that. I don't know. There you go, live streams. Let's try this again. Okay. One thing I'd love to address right away is there is a lot of chaff. There's a lot of static if not using RDT, especially with grinding for filter ranges. You can see, hopefully you can see around the edges here, there's a lot of static, and when you hit that knocker, you're gonna get a little bit of static cling. Not the end of the world, much better than many flat burr grinders. This seems to be an issue with most flat burr grinders. But a little spray of water, a little spritz of water on your beans before grinding goes a long way, especially on this grinder. So if you're gonna get the P100 or you're gonna use it, whatever the case, I would highly recommend RDT. So today we're brewing this coffee from Lulo, as I already mentioned, and the filter coffee profiles on this have been incredibly clean, right? So the high uniformity burrs are really interesting. These are kind of like what you'd find if you know burrs at all, you've been following the channel or you watch my content, you know that the manual or the multi-purpose burrs from SSP are the ones I currently have on my P64. If you don't know what that means, let me break it down. So the multi-purpose burrs are a unimodal burr, and it's a flat burr from SSP that creates a very uniform grind distribution. What that means is that your grounds are going to be more uniform than they are different. And you would assume that most grinders would want to be this way, but there's definitely a point where grinder burrs can become incredibly uniform. And that's what this SSP multi-purpose burr is. So this high uniformity burr, the naming is a little confusing because the high uniformity on the 64 millimeter burrs is the more bimodal. And what that would mean is more like traditional espresso shots. You're gonna get gooey, thick texture. There's gonna be some fines in there. There's gonna be, it's just gonna be a little more diverse in its uniformity, where the multi-purpose are very tight in distribution. Now, even that being said, the high uniformity SSP 64 millimeter burrs are still really good in clarity, right? That's what you're gonna get in trade-off. If you have a little more texture, you're probably gonna lose a little bit of clarity, but you'll raise some complexity in the cup. Now, these 98 millimeter high uniformity burrs are just insane. Now, like I said, the naming is a little confusing because this is not a high texture burr, okay? This is not the same as the 64 millimeter burr. And quite honestly, I think SSP needs to figure out their naming because it's confusing even for me. This one is more like that multi-purpose burr. This is a unimodal style burr. Now they also have the low uniformity burr, and then the Brew Bur, or the ultra low uniformity Bur from SSP. And they also have a cast Bur that resembles the same, I believe it's the same Bur from the EK43 prior to, I think it's 2016. And I want to try out all of them, but these burrs are incredibly expensive. So the one that comes with the P100 from Option O, again, $2,500, $2,600. There's a wait list for this grinder. You have to pre-order them much in advance. That burr is going to be the high uniformity when you order this grinder. I think you can adjust that, but that's what came in my grinder here. Now this is a great burr for espresso and for filter coffee. And my filter coffees that I've had so far are good. They have a bit of complexity, but mostly a lot of clarity. But I find that I really enjoy the profiles on this. For me, the multi-purpose burr, that 64mm SSP burr, was lacking some of the complexity that I desire from a cup. I actually love just a little bit of complexity, just a little bit of sweetness, if you will, because without it, it doesn't feel like a well-rounded cup. And I find these 98mm burrs, you would assume that they're even higher in clarity, which they actually are, but they actually also add a little bit of that sweetness, that complexity that I love. And overall, it's creating one of the most beautiful cups of coffees that I've had. Again, you're paying for that, a lot of money, but this is a great grinder if you're in that range of wanting to spend a couple $1,000s. All right, we're waiting for this to draw down. While we're doing that, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the P100. I'm gonna answer them later on in this video. Also, do me a huge favor if you haven't already. Click that like button down below if you appreciate coffee live streams. If you appreciate just first impressions like these. I know they're a little less edited, a little more raw. Hopefully you can appreciate that. If you do, let me know. The like button is such a silly thing, but it tells YouTube that these are videos worth watching, and it's an algorithmic thing. So if you would, that would be absolutely amazing. So right now our drawdown is about 320. And I would love to show you my top-down shot, but it looks like my camera has stopped working. Oh, we're good. All right. So I've ground a little bit too fine here. Now I'm at 5.1, and this is still a little too fine. You can see there's a lot of fines on the edge of this filter here, which with this grinder is really good at preventing. So this isn't a grinder issue. This is more of grinding too fine, right? I've ground a little too fine for filter coffee. I'm brewing at about, you can't see the timer here, but it's about 4 minutes at a drawdown. I did 20 grams of coffee in 1:16 ratio. That's okay. You can see, you guys can see, this is the ground coffee that just spilled absolutely everywhere. Rest in peace. Rip in the chat. Yeah, this is ground way, way too fine, but that's okay. This is what you're gonna get when brewing on a live stream. I tried to dial this in before I jumped on here, thought I had it, but I think adjusting that ring earlier to show you guys is throwing off my grind just a little bit, but that's okay. So at this point, we're gonna dive into what I think about the impressions of this coffee. I'm gonna grab a cup here. I'll be right back. what's fantastic is, guys, this brewed probably a minute longer than I would normally look at. Now, time is not a consistent variable. I don't like using that as a variable to dial in coffees, quote unquote, but this brewed at almost 5 minutes. So for a V60, I'm normally looking at 3 minutes to 4 minutes max. So that's a long time. But even still, I would assume that this would be over extracted. And knowing the coffee that I've brewed, I would say that this would be likely a bitter cup of coffee. But it's not. And I think that speaks to the high uniformity of this burr, right? When you have a grinder that doesn't create a ton of fines, a grinder that's very uniform in its distribution, especially like this 98 millimeter burr, you can make mistakes and it is so much more forgiving. And it is just so much more forgiving. I completely messed up that batch. I spilt the coffee and I had to regrind, okay? And yet still, this is a fantastic cup of coffee. Now, I would definitely adjust some things if I had known, but this is still, I would still drink this. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's great. Now, I think that also goes to obviously great credit for the coffee itself. And like I said, this is Lulo, a roaster here in Ottawa in Canada. Regardless of where you are in the world, check them out. Lulo. Kevin is the roaster here, and he's just doing fantastic work. He has great relationships with the producers and farmers themselves. He's Colombian himself, and so all the coffee they roast, I believe, is Colombian. And it's just a really cool roastery. Check them out. Okay. Well, at this point, I think it's time for us to dial in an espresso. And I should probably tell you at this point, I'm going to be brewing and dialing an espresso I have never brewed before. Now, this is going to be a natural Ethiopian, and I don't often brew natural Ethiopians, but they can be a little more forgiving. So this should be fine. But I wanted to show you, the reason I'm doing this, I want to show you how easy it is to dial in a coffee on the P100. It's just so easy. So easy. So we're going to bring this top-down shot again. And now I'm gonna just dial in this focus a little bit so you guys can see. I'm gonna bring the Flare 58 in. All right, now these are heating up and our kettle's good to go, and I'm gonna grind some coffee. But since we're about halfway through the stream, I want you guys to do me a huge favor. We have currently 67 likes and there's over 100 of you watching, about 130 of you. Let's get that to 100 likes real quick. Do that quick favor for me, wherever you're watching from. That would be great. Let's grind some coffee. Now today, like I mentioned, we're brewing a natural Ethiopian and we're brewing a monogram natural Ethiopian, and this is their Ardent Natural. It's a Yirgacheffe. It's fantastic. It's not overly fermented. It's not overly fruity. It's just well-rounded, a well-balanced natural Ethiopian. And on espresso, they just brew some of the most delicious-looking coffee. So let's grind this. Now I'm going to do 18 grams here today. Got no space here. I'm just making the biggest mess. What a gong show. Gotta love live streams. Hopefully you guys appreciate these. Hope you like them. If not, I don't have to do them. Just a fun way to connect with you guys. Love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, that is not 18 grams. 18.2, 18.1. We'll go with that. Okay. So now on the P100, let me see if I can get this back in frame here. Now you guys can't see, but the line is actually right here. Let me see if I can move this flare out of the way. Okay, so the line is right here, all right, where the notch is. And so it's at 5.1. Okay, and we're gonna dial this down. I'm gonna put the grinder on. And we moved it to 1.7. Now this is very important, guys. We need to make sure anytime we're adjusting our grind finer, I would highly recommend you turn the grinder on. Regardless of if it's conical or flat burrs, it's a good practice to get into, because if there are any residual coffee beans, any chunks, anything like that, and you go finer, you adjust that grind finer, you can actually damage the grinder and or burr. So just be aware of that. It's not the end of the world. Most people never run into those issues, but it's a good practice. So I've ground this down. I've moved this down to 1.7. Right now, I'm aware that between 1 to 2 is kind of my sweet spot with espresso. There's a wide range, and depending on the coffee, that can change. But right now, I'm at 1.7. And I'm gonna pull a Londinium style shot on the Flare 58. If you're not sure what that is, I'll walk you through it here. But that's what we're gonna do today. So let's go ahead and grind this coffee. Now, the P100, like the P64, comes with a dosing funnel. This one is color matched, which I think is really nice. And I did get the black model here. I think it just fits my brew bar really well. It's under renovation, and we're changing some things up. So I have been known to get all the white equipment. This one's black, and future grinders will also be black. But we'll talk more about that at another time. Now this one comes with the dosing funnel, like I mentioned, which is magnetic, and it comes with a little Weiss distribution tool as well. Now this one is not bad, okay? It's not the greatest Weiss distribution tool, but I actually use it because I find it just looks really nice. It feels really good to use. I have premium WDT tools like the Swerks Design and J. Kim's 3D printed model. I have that one too. I have them all, but this one I like because it matches the grinder. Call me silly like that, but that's why I'm using this one here. So I'm gonna distribute this coffee real quick. We're gonna tamp this. I've been using a wide range of tampers lately. I really like the Happy tamper. We'll talk about that another time as well, but it's a calibrated tamper. I really like the consistency, especially if multiple people are using it. But today we're gonna use the tamper that comes with the Lili Bianca. All right. How about those coffee transitions though? Come on. Okay, so at this point, I'm just gonna grab a glass and we're gonna pull a shot. Okay, this is gonna be a really awkward angle to try and press this, but wish me luck. Let's do this. Doing a little pre-infusion here for the Londinium, and then we're gonna ramp this up to about 9 bars. And then we're gonna start to ramp down here. This is an option in the Londinium, but I'm gonna ramp it down to about 3 to 6 bars. And then we're gonna be done there. So I pulled just over a 1 to 2 ratio here. We ground 18 grams of coffee in, and there's about 38.4 there in just over 30 seconds, okay? And you're gonna remember with the Londinium, you're often gonna run a little longer because you're gonna do those longer pre-infusions. So that's actually not bad. But the most important thing is to taste the coffee, so let's do that. Oh, it's fantastic. I wish you could all just be here and smell this, drink this. Oh, that's incredible. And I'm not even that big of a fan of natural Ethiopians. Oh, I still have my leftover filter coffee too. Oh, just wash it down. Oh, guys, what can I say? The P100, it's impressive, right? This has some trade-offs. In terms of workflow, it's easier to use, I find. It's more forgiving than other grinders. It's louder than the P64, a grinder in its own family. It's expensive at $2,500, $2,600 plus shipping. It's big. Some people don't love the looks of the P100. It's polarizing in that way. But the coffee it makes is just fantastic. When you have good coffee that is easy to work with, it's really hard to replace those experiences, you know? I would love to use this in a commercial setting. I would love to figure out how this could be used in a commercial setting. Obviously, it's a single dosing grinder, so you're not gonna have that hopper, so there's that trade-off there. But this would be a fantastic grinder if a single dosing cafe wanted to implement it in their workflow. I think it makes fantastic coffee. But I think now you wanna see the retention, right? After grinding a couple coffees, how much retention is in this grinder? Why don't we open it up again and take a look? That's a good test. Okay, moment of truth here. Now keep in mind, with 98 millimeter and massive burrs like these, there always is gonna be a little bit of retention. Option O suggests that it has 0.1 grams of retention, which is definitely a zero retention grinder in my opinion. But let's take a look. Hopefully you guys can see this on the camera. All right, do me a huge favor, guys. I know I've asked already, but for those just joining us, before I open up this Bur chamber, hit that like button down below. Let's get to 100 likes before the stream ends. And I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful time with me today as we're brewing some coffees. Let's open this up. Look at that. Let me see if I can stretch this so you guys can see this a little bit better. There is virtually no retention in this grinder. These are massive burrs, guys. Keep that in mind. These are, look at this. Okay, let me do a 64 millimeter burr in comparison. You ready? These are 98 millimeter burrs. This is a 64 millimeter burr. That's insane. And then here is the Lagom Minis 48 millimeter conical burr. They're massive. And so a grinder like this, to have this little retention, is just, for me, can you guys see that? Here, let me get a light in here. There's no coffee in there. And if I knock this chute, I might get a little bit. Okay, so that's what we got there. So if I have my grinder, my scale here, I'm not even sure if this will pick it up. We got a mess going on here, but hopefully you guys are having a good time with me today. We got this little metal cup. Zero that out. This is not a very accurate way to do this, but just for the sake of the live stream. Okay, it's not even picking up 0.1 grams. So I would call that, between all the residual on the burrs here, which is very minimal, some dust, and this here, probably 0.1 grams. So that's pretty impressive. And keep in mind as well, I did not use any RDT, no water, so it's only better. It's only better when you actually use a little bit, a spritz of water before you grind. It's even better retention. So that's pretty impressive. Now, I'm not trying to sell you on this grinder. I'm just really excited about this because this is my new grinder, to be quite honest with you. It's one that I've been waiting for a long time. And to continue just better this channel, better the content for all of you guys, I really wanted to spend the money to be able to deliver the best content possible for all of you. Now, like I mentioned, this is not a review. We're gonna have a full review to come of the P100, but I really want your input. So don't go yet. I really want you to let me know in the comments, what do you wanna see? What do you wanna know about the P100 grinder? Do you want me to compare it to the P64? Is that something that you're even interested in? Do you care about that? To the Lagom Mini, to other big grinders in the industry? What do you want me to do? Truly, I make this content for all of you so that you can make better coffee at home. And so real honestly, this isn't for me. This truly is, at the end of the day, for all of you. So let me know in the chat. Now I'm gonna get to some Q&A in a second. If you guys want, write a comment down in the chat. That would be wonderful. And if you really want to get a question in case I skim over any, you're more than welcome to send a super chat. By no means is that needed, but if you want to, that's an option. And that one will get prioritized in the YouTube chat system. That's just how it works. So let's dive into this. I'm going to answer some questions, and then if you guys want me to do anything else, we'll do that before we wrap up this stream. Sal, what burrs do I have in here? So I mentioned this earlier in the stream. So I have the 98 millimeter high uniformity burrs. These are the ones that come stock with the P100. And you can adjust that if you message option O in the process of purchasing. But these ones are the high uniformity burrs. And I've really enjoyed my experience so far. A burr that I really want to try, one that I really want to dive into, is the cast burrs by SSP. They're essentially a clone of the EK43 burr. I was talking to Brian Kwan earlier this week. We were having a call and we were talking about the P100, and he highly recommended that, especially because the P100 with the high uniformity burrs, when it comes to espresso, you saw that it actually did create a bit of texture. In my experience, and this might change by my full review, so don't quote me on this, please, but in my experience, it creates a little more texture than the multi-purpose burr of the 64 millimeter burr while still providing higher clarity, which is pretty nice. Again, that might change. So limited experience here with this grinder. But the Casper, the EK43 clone, has the ability to create a little more texture, okay? So you kind of have a little more of a hybrid burr, you know, high clarity, high texture. So if you like those ooey gooey shots, you like a little more sweetness in your filter coffee, that one will excel at that. So I'm really excited to try that. Just going through some questions here, trying to see what you guys are asking. Have I tried the 64 millimeter Caspers? That's a great question. I actually haven't. That's the one burr of the 64 millimeter family that I haven't been able to get my hands on. I've been really busy with a lot of grinder comparisons, content on some other stuff. And so the Caspers were not really on the top of my priority. It also seemed when they came out, there was just so many different burr options coming out on the market. So that probably got drowned in that for me, but I definitely want to. You know, I've heard a lot of great things. I've heard, again, kind of like that EK43 clone, that they're kind of that hybrid between a high sweetness, good texture, but also great clarity. And so I think there's obviously this conversation going on in the market right now that's the unimodal burrs, like the multi-purpose 64 millimeter burrs. We're getting into a niche topic here, but stick with me. Those are kind of like the king of burrs. And I honestly don't know if I agree. I think that some people will think they're the king, and depending on your palate, you might really enjoy that. But a lot of people like texture in their espresso. A lot of people like that gooiness, that mouthfeel. And I think we can't just neglect it in the chase for high clarity. Personally, I think there is an importance to mouthfeel because that's a huge part of espresso, right? Now, I'm a huge fan of turbo shots and high clarity shots and all of those things, you know, Allonges. But regardless, I think we can't just neglect the idea that certain people won't enjoy that. So the Casper seems to be that hybrid, so maybe that would be a good option for many people. So I want to try the Casper for this grinder, but also the 64 millimeter burr for sure. How do I think the Argos will stack up against the Flare 58? What a wonderful question. I have seen the Argos. I think it's going to be a great value for a lever machine. I think, you know, levers are fairly expensive, and to have one that's under $1,000 US is attractive. I think I want to see it in person. You know, in the coffee industry, there's a lot of promise of cool product, but unless it delivers, it doesn't really mean much to me. And so once it's out in the public, I will for sure get my hands on one, and then I'll let you guys know what I think. But at this point, I don't want to see a ton because it's not even out yet, you know? It looks cool. It looks very cool, but time will tell. Can you compare the key and the P100 espresso profiles, or espresso oriented, please? That's what Tolga is saying. So fun fact, I actually sold my key. I didn't want to make a big deal of it, but I have sold my key to actually one of the Patreon members in the Discord. I put it up for sale there, gave somebody a pretty good deal on one. The key was great. I really enjoyed it. It had great build quality. The conicals were fun to play with, but the workflow for me just wasn't ideal. You know, with a grinder like this, around the same price as the key, this one, you know, this one's just a lot easier to use. It's more forgiving, and it's just nice. It's hard to explain and put in words. The key was a wonderful grinder. I think so many people are going to enjoy it. But for me, if I had to choose between the two, I was leaning more towards the P100. The key is just, it's a work of art. It's an art piece. You know, I would say the build quality on the key is better than the P100, even though this is fantastic. Weber Workshop knows how to build a grinder. But for me, I was really wanting a flat burr grinder. And so the key was just the one I went with. Sorry, the P100 is the one I went with. How many grinders do I own? That's a great question. So I have the DF64, the Eureka Oro, and then the niche behind me. I also have the Malkonig X54. Behind me over here, I have the Arco from Goat Story. And then beside that, I have the Fellow Ode. Let me see if I can tilt this out of the way. So I have the Fellow Ode right there. That's just my grinders here in the studio. I've got a couple hand grinders on my storage over here. And then upstairs, I've got the Yermonic 080, which a review coming on that soon. Be sure to subscribe, turn notifications on, turn that little bell on so you don't miss that, which is a $300 single dosing espresso grinder. Pretty cool. Really excited to talk about that. I've got the new Eureka Oro upstairs to compare and contrast against this one here, because if you guys remember my original review, I didn't give it great. I didn't give a great recommendation for it. I think it was rushed, and go watch the review for all my details on that. But they've updated the Oro, guys. They've changed the single dose. They've fixed a couple things. And so now I want to see, is it worth considering? You know, on the market right now, there's so many different options. Is the Oro worth considering? And I hope it is. I hope it is, especially for a specific type of buyer. And then I also have the P64 upstairs, P100, and got a couple other grinders in boxes too. So I don't like to gloat about which ones I have, but it does create a lot of great content for all of you, and hopefully educational content. Now, that all being said, I'm going to be giving a lot of these away soon to my Patreon members. And there's a big video I'm working on right now, the ultimate single dosing video, comparing all of these in a budget of $300, basically up to the P100, but focusing on different brackets. And after that video, I'm going to be giving a lot of my grinders away. I just don't need them. I don't want to hoard stuff. So hopefully that answers your question. Are you going to compare other Titan grinders like the Bentwood or an EK43? Maybe one day. You know, right now the channel, I'm focusing on more budget equipment. I know we're talking about the P100 today, so it's kind of hypocritical to say, but really this channel is all about, you know, helping you make better coffee at home. And so I want to hit content that hits a wide range of people. And while we'll talk about cool grinders like the P100, we're going to talk more about budget grinders. Maybe one day, you know, maybe when the channel grows, it's growing. We're getting closer to 100,000 subscribers, which is just mind blowing to me. But right now, I really want to focus on things that'll help the vast majority. Hopefully that makes sense. Somebody's asking the best, cheapest espresso machine you own. I just did a video on the Pico Presso, and the Pico Presso is a very interesting espresso brewer. Sorry, the focus is throwing me off here. I'm gonna move this out of the way. Oh no, oh no. Live streams. Okay, we're just gonna leave that up. We're just gonna leave that up. Okay, that's fine. I just did a video on the Pico Presso. I think you should check it out. Pico Presso is a great espresso brewer. It's highly underrated in my opinion. You know, I think it's actually capable of making good espresso for like under 150 bucks. So, I mean, if you want like a legitimate daily user, maybe not. I would say maybe like the Flair Signature would probably be what I would recommend. There's some great budget options on the market today. Man, it's just so great. It's a great time to be an espresso fan. It's a great time to be a coffee fan. There are so many fantastic roasters, fantastic coffee machines, espresso machines, grinders. It's just such a great time. And honestly, when I got into coffee almost a decade ago, specialty coffee that is, it was tough, right? There were so many different there was no YouTube like there is now, you know, like even Hoffman wasn't making videos back when I got into it. And so today we have such a wonderful community. You're part of that community. The Discord, like I said, go check that out down below. The Discord, Home Barista Discord, that's an amazing community. And, you know, I'm rambling here, but to answer your question, I would say the Pico Presso, the Flair is great. I think Flair makes great products. If we're talking manual espresso, that is. And if you want to talk about like an electronic espresso machine, semi-automatic, I really love the Gaja Classic Pro. I'm pretty sure they just came out with a dimmer mod, like a legitimate dimmer mod from Gaja. I could be wrong, but the Discord was talking about it today and I was checking that out. That looked pretty cool. Or Breville makes good products like the Infuser, even the Bambino Plus. Those are good machines. If you put some accessories in there, use better filter baskets. If you can adjust those, get some better accessories. Those are very capable machines for a budget, you know, value. That's what I would say. Hopefully that helps. Kyle, can you set up a coffee tasting? Yeah, join the Discord. We'll do that eventually for sure. Am I thinking of comparing 98mm burrs? We're getting into niche topics there, maybe, but honestly, that might not be for a while. I really want to focus on some broad content to help more people than, you know, the end game grinder crew. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you agree in the comments, and also smash that like button if you're still watching. Couldn't find the link for the upgraded trim on the niche, the wood trim that is. Can you let us have that, please? As in a link, I'm assuming. if that's so, Trunk and Stem on Instagram. It's a carpenter, a small carpenter, one guy who makes all of them. We're actually working on a collab to make some awesome espresso accessories. Stay tuned for that. But he makes great niche products. You know, I bought the niche wood a year ago, and it looks fantastic. So hopefully that helps that. Joe, see you in the Discord later today. We will see you there. And Ted, personally, Corona made me broke and made it even harder to get difficult coffee and equipments. And that's the reality, right? Today we are talking about the P100, and I get that this is such a niche topic, but coffee doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, really, I mean, you saw what I was brewing on today. We have a glass server, but you don't even need that. You have a cup, and I use a $10 V60. You know, that's all you really need. You don't need a $2,500 grinder. There's so many better options. I have a ton of videos on budget grinders. I have a video on the best hand grinders under 150 bucks, and some of them are $70, $80 and can make you just unreal coffee. You don't need to spend big money. Coffee's not about spending money. We do get in these rabbit trails of spending a ton of money in the end game gear and the end game content and all of that kind of stuff. And listen, I'm a victim of that. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it's all about this right here. Not Monogram, but it's about the coffee and the coffee that we brew, the experiences that we have. And that's why I just can't recommend enough. Check out the Discord, join that, because one of the most common, or one of the more populated channels on the Discord is Today I'm Brewing, hashtag Today I'm Brewing, and just an idea of we're sharing what coffee we're brewing, the experiences we're having with it, and separating ourselves from gear. Gear's fun. Like, I love gear, but sometimes we kind of get focused in on the wrong thing within this industry. And so coffee's all it, you know. Let me know in the chat right now. We're talking about grinders and stuff, but let me know what coffee you've been enjoying. Let me know your favorite coffee roaster. Let me know somebody who's inspired you to taste more coffee, to enjoy more coffee. Let me know something that relates to the industry outside of gear. I would love to know that in the chat as well. Although this stuff is so fun, and obviously this stuff is not going to stop, the content's not going to stop, but really we got to focus in as well on coffee gear. And in the future, I'm not sure what the future entails, but I would love to do weekly live streams. I want to do something called Tasting Tuesdays. If this is something that interests you, let me know in the chat. Let me know by hitting the like button. And I want to get live every week and just share the coffee I'm brewing, what I'm tasting, the experience I'm having, the recipe that I'm using, and really just kind of strip back from things that kind of distract us and just kind of talk about coffee. If that's something that would interest you here on YouTube, let me know, because I really want to. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's, for those asking, this is Lulo. This is like a micro roastery here in Ottawa. And yeah, I think they ship North America wide. They definitely ship Canada wide. But definitely check them out. LULO. It's a great coffee roaster. I'm also brewing Monogram, which is another great roaster out of, I think they're out of Edmonton, Alberta. They're award-winning, fantastic baristas, just fantastic people. All right, if you guys have any more questions, let me know in the chat real quick. I'm just scrolling up through the chat here. Thoughts on getting a decent at some point in the future for the channel? That'll probably happen. Again, like I am trying to focus on other content at this point, but the decent is cool. I think it's a really cool machine. I think they're doing cool things over at Decent, creating really cool products. You know, especially the DE1, that's really cool. I'm intrigued to see if a DE2 will ever come out. Maybe that might be years down the road, but I would love to jump on the wagon then. I wonder if I got a DE1 if I'm on the end of its lifespan. I could be completely wrong. I haven't heard anything, guys. I haven't heard anything, but I do wonder, you know. But I definitely will get a Decent eventually, just to help widen the content on this channel. And I think the graphs that it includes, the way that it brews coffee will help a lot of people. But in the meantime, I mean, there's some great channels covering decent content. And so go check theirs out, you know. And on this channel, we're talking a lot about some other stuff right now. But in the future, we'll definitely dive into decent, especially as the channel continues to grow for sure. But yeah, cool stuff. Check them out. What can I do to my water when the tap water is too hard? Great question. So tap water, you know, depending on where you are, it's incredibly inconsistent. Here in Ottawa, we have a ppm of, I think it's 30, which is super soft. It's just ridiculously soft, which is good. It doesn't create a lot of scale. You know, that part's good, but it doesn't create a lot of vibrant flavors either. Now, every tap water is different, and you know, this video is not sponsored by any means, but one of the sponsors of this channel is Third Wave Water. But there are other products too, like Perfect Coffee Water. I know there's Lotus Coffee Water, and there's some other products out there that you can basically make water specified for coffee. And how you do it is you take like demineralized water and you add minerals. It sounds incredibly niche, but honestly, guys, before you spend money on something like this, before you spend money on something even like this, whatever you have right now can be drastically improved by improving your water. So if you haven't yet done that, I would highly recommend whatever product it might be. I recommend Third Wave Water, but whatever it would be, Perfect Coffee Water, Aqua Code, there's a bunch of them. Fantastic stuff that really can change how great your coffee is. I'm not overhyping it, and this is something that goes highly underrated. Water is the biggest catalyst outside of the coffee bean itself for brewing better coffee at home. So to improve your water, your tap water, you can use like a Brita system. There is a water filter that they sell that's called, drawing a blank, is it Peak Water? I think it's Peak Water, and it basically helps with the concentration of, I think it's hardness. But the problem with tap water is you're gonna have, you know, unwanted minerals in there. You know, here in Canada, we have fluoride in our water, at least in Ontario, which obviously makes your teeth nice and strong, but it doesn't taste good. And so I don't want that in my coffee, you know? So it's just, that's the reality. Anytime you go to a really good cafe and you walk away going, how come my coffee never tastes the same at home? It might be a grinder, you know, it might be a coffee, but it's probably the water. It's probably the water. Check that out. Issue is how to get reasonably priced distilled water. That's a reality, right? So I go to Walmart. Again, not sponsored, but Walmart, it's like $1 for a gallon, and that's Canadian, you know, so the US would be cheaper. It's just one of those things, right? We're so willing to spend thousands on gear, but not, you know, 10, 15 bucks on water. Like, just let's just shift our mindset a little bit. Now, if budget's just an issue in general, I get it. I totally get it. For me, it took me a while to get to water, better water at home, but prioritize it, you know, sacrifice something else. Maybe it's buying less gear and focusing on water. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree. That's okay. Water is just such an important part of good coffee. Get a Sinesto ES1. Is that the new one that has like, it's kind of like a decent, kind of like a Slayer, kind of like a Lily Bianca? I'm pretty sure that's, I can't remember the name of that machine because it's not out yet, I'm pretty sure. But if that's the one from Boston, I want it 100%, but I've got enough espresso machines. We'll see. I mean, that's pretty cool though. If you're on the fence of like decent, but you don't want like the touch screen, you don't want a giant iPad, but you want more like tactile feel, that might be the machine for most people. We're kind of running on late here, guys. I didn't plan the stream to be so long, but this is some good conversations here. So we'll kind of stay on here for a few more minutes. If you have any more questions, let me know. If you haven't yet, do me a huge favor and hit that little thumbs up button down below. It means more to this channel than you know. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. It's actually crazy how much YouTube favors videos that have high like rates. So this is just, while I'm live here, a tip for any of your favorite YouTubers. If you enjoy their content, just always hit a like before they ask. You know, the more that we get, the less that we have to ask. So regardless, let's get back to the chat here. Cool. Well, guys, before I head off, a couple things I want to say. First off, let me know if you enjoy live streams. Let me know if this is something that you want to do. Honestly, I only do them if you want them. You know, these are longer videos. They're unedited. I do love the ability to put more content out there. So if I can do live streams more often, I will. But I need to hear from you guys. And that includes just letting me know in the chat, hitting me up. Write this in the comments if you're watching this later on. If you missed the stream, let me know what times work well for you for live streams. I would love to know all these things. I truly want us to be a great community. Also, do not miss hitting up that Discord. I'm going to put it up here one more time. We've got the Discord here, and look at that. Mike just posted a photo of his rocket. This is a Discord that is available to all of you guys. I publicly launched it a couple days ago, but it's been public for about a month now, and it's existed for about 12 months for our patrons. So there are certain sections that are Patreon only, but a lot of them are public now. And so right here is the Today I'm Brewing. We have the troubleshooting down here as well. And so everything in here, talking about just troubleshooting issues with espresso, with filter coffee, the Brew coffee chat. It goes on and on and on. The public chat. So be sure. I would love to see you guys over there. If you drop in, say hi in the public chat. Drop a hello. I'll be looking for all of you guys in there. But yeah, link down below for that. It's absolutely free to join the Home Barista Discord. And if you're already in it, send it to somebody. Send it to a group of people. Send it to a group chat of people who love coffee, who would also love to be a part of that. This isn't about me. It's all about building this community up. So hopefully we'll see you guys over there. Now, before we wrap up here, again, the P100 is a fantastic grinder. It's an expensive grinder. It's a big grinder. Okay, this is a chonky boy. But it's a grinder for a specific person. A person like me, but maybe not a person like you. So I would encourage you, don't get caught in this upgrade-itis just because it looks really cool. Whatever you have might be absolutely incredible. That being said, if you're in the market for a grinder like this, a single dosing grinder, one of those quote-unquote endgame grinders, I want to help you see if the P100 is that. So I'm not going to say if it is today. Be sure to stick around for the full review. I'm going to have some reviews on some upcoming grinders like the Urbonic 080 soon. That's a $300 espresso grinder, highly underrated, and so I'm gonna be sure to tell you more about that soon. If you're not yet subscribed, hit that red button down below. It takes 2 seconds. We're almost at 100K. I think we're at about 83 right now, which is just crazy. You're all incredible. Let me know if you enjoy live streams in the chat. If you haven't already, hit that like button before you go. I love each and every single one of you guys. We'll see you guys all in the next video. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Peace.